information we would get, depending on how sensitive the data would be. And the second was to analyze how the interviewees express ideas of self and sense of identity in the context of a drastic change of situation and environment. And that's pretty much the analytical work, and Paulo's writing on it. So Paulo has written the project, Reem and I have collected the interviews and produced the transcriptions, and Paulo is with this material to do an initial analysis of it prior to putting it into the archive. So the objectives that we had, and this I took from Paulo's request. We wanted to interview approximately 50 individuals, half of which would be adults, which means that we had this idea that we could interview children. Then we wanted to record their narratives in terms of audio and video, and collect digital images or videos of sentimental value to the interviewee. So Paulo was like, you know, many people, they bring this one thing that is so important to them, that they carry along, and it's so why don't we have also a picture of that, or maybe pictures of their pictures if they have pictures of their homes. Sometimes people clinging to the very minimum they can bring, and that very minimum is so important, maybe we should make a record of that too. So that was one of the aims. And the project would be conducted for 3 months between the 15th of February and the 15th of May 2016. And then, oh yeah, we have a little bit more. The steps that we would have, there were 3 steps for this project. So we had the preparation of it, conducting the interviews, and processing the interviews. So this was going to be part of those 3 months, because before getting the money, no need to really go there and destroy our relationship with the council, asking to do a project that you actually can't do that. So we only could do everything once that the funding was already there. So the approval of the research proposal, once we got the grant, right? The approval of the research proposal by the ethics committee was submitted in January and approved in March, which already, you know, we didn't start with a very good timing. The interviewer training and research that I could do while I was still, we were still waiting for the ethics committee. Acquisition of the material that was completed in April, so buying stuff through university with money from funding is very difficult, and it takes loads of months. And the thing is, since we're going to deal with very sensitive data, personal computers were not to be used, so we bought a computer just for that project. We were not sending those files online. Reem and I had, because Reem was like, oh, we had to do some reinterpretation later, you can send me the file. I can't send you the file. So we had to convene some place to be together with that computer without sending anything through the web and work together. And yeah, still took us like 3 months or 4 months to buy it. The contact with the council was very straightforward. Peter was brilliant. That man is really, really part of what he does, and so I made a contact with me. But the thing is the following: when Paulo made the research bid, he said, okay, we hire an interviewee, and then we hire a translator. We did not know of Reem's existence whatsoever. So when I spoke to Peter, it was like, you're gonna be the translator. And we were very happy that 1, Reem exists. 2, Peter already knew she existed, and she was already working together with the council, because the kind of translation that Reem can do, because of her academic work, is the best one can get for this project. She's not there for the words, she's there with all the knowledge in order to do it the best she can. So that was an absolute fortunate finding. It was amazing. So, and we got in contact with her, and very like that, hey Reem, I don't know you, you don't know me, but this is the project, you know, I know you have a life, you have a PhD, you have other things to do, but shall we do this? And she was very brave and said, yes, we shall do this. Which is really great, because it took us so much time. Then conducting the interviews, that was, it happened between May and June, exactly between the 23rd of May and the 23rd of June, which was really interesting. That was reasonably straightforward, but not as we thought was going to be. And processing the interviews, we had the whole process of reinterpretation of the interviews that happened between late August and mid-October, and the transcription was ready in early December. So this is a very long 3 months, like incredibly long 3 months.
Which, since it's being recorded, I must say that we had a deadline, and all of the work had to be completed with the deadline, which is not represented by those dates. It's earlier than that.
Yes, but but Paulo asked for 1 month of extension, yes. So the project actually went all the way through the beginning of July, or through the end of June. And what actually, what was written in the talk is that the interviews would be done by the end of the project. That's why the last interview was done in the 23rd of June. The project never mentioned how long can you spend in transcribing it, so that's why we did it like that. So, and let me just explain quickly the reinterpretation bit. We're going to go into details, but when we first interviewed, when we both got there, we were not alone. So we had, first of all, I contacted Peter Barnard, which is the head of the resettlement program, and he directed us to speak with 2 caseworkers. And those caseworkers would find the suitable families, because they would know the psychological, the physical, all the situations of the family. So they would judge, and they would choose families for us to interview. And the caseworker would be together with us during the interview all time long, because of course the individuals we interviewed did not know. Some of them knew Reem, which was really great as well, another door. So the whole report was already there with her in many cases. But what happened is, as the interviewees were speaking, and what they were talking about was painful in an unspeakable forms. We had cases of people telling details of torture for months, arrest and rearrest. People describing seeing bodies, very graphic. And of course, as these people, as these very kind people went going through their own memories, they relived it, and it was very difficult. So what happened at the end of the day is, from my very idea of asking just a small set of questions, I forgot about this. And Reem, she had to, because that's the idea, right? So you make the interview, someone speaks, the person speak, Reem would translate it to me, and that would be recorded, and that translation is what would be recorded. But they would just speak on, and Reem very early on said, better not to interrupt them. He's going to say, yes, better not to interrupt them. So because of all that, I did not have an account in English of what they were saying. So we had to listen to all of that again. She interpreted all of that again, so we listened to everything again. And she would interpret for me from time to time a very brief summary. They said this, and that's what they're narrating, so I would know what was happening there. But then later on we went through minute by minute, she listening in, telling me in English exactly what they said, and I was typing it, so we went through all that. That's why I would call it the reinterpretation. So what we got, instead of 50 people, we interviewed 8 families, and it's really interesting, because we already see how the configuration changes. We talk about interviewing individuals, and what we have is family interviews, because they were resettled as a family, and the interviews were given as a family. So of those 8 interviews, we have a total of 14 individuals speaking. So in 7 of those cases, we had husband and wife, the couple, and one of them would lead the conversation most of the time. The other would interrupt, and the dynamics were very different. So at times you had the male leading and the female interviewing. Sometimes you had the female leading and the male intervening. And one of those families is composed by a widow, so that's why she was alone. So that's why we have 14, so 16. 2 of those cases actually. In one of the other cases, only one person spoke our last interview. But the family was around, the children were around. We asked them, do you want the children to be around? No, it's, the children were around. The other person involved, the person that was not speaking, was going on doing chores, setting up food. We ate so much. So okay, We had a total of 13 hours of audio with no video. So at the beginning of the interview, we had, of course, our consent forms, and there was a whole little ritual. So we would arrive. Of course, we would be introduced already by the caseworker. That was the person with whom we would enter the house. We did not enter any of the houses of the families without the caseworker. And then Reem would go through 2 documents with them. One describing the entire research, the reasons for the interview, so she would read it to them, translate it into Arabic to them, and there was a consent form in which they would be asked, okay, can we record what you're saying in audio? Yes. Can we record in video? They would say yes or no. All of them said no. And can we take pictures of you? And a couple of them said yes, but most of them said no. So that's why we have no camera. And at the end of the day, we had 170 pages of transcription. So we collected 5 images of those images of things that were important to people. So we collected 5 of those images. 2 of them were pictures they had on their mobile phones. And 3 of them were pictures of objects that they showed to us. And the interviews took place between 23rd of May and 24th of June, and the project had 1 month extension. All recordings had to be reinterpreted, and the transcriptions were ready in December. So, cool. Now, we already had the view of the project leader. We would go now to the view of the translator. And of course, this is food that we've been served in one of the interviews. It's absolutely incredible. We were given so much food, but it was not that only. It was part of sitting down and conversing and telling that story and how the coffee would come, and particularly in this case we stayed there for 4 hours and we had dinner, because it's impolite to live without having dinner. I ate so much I went to hospital the other day, I promise. I had gallbladder problems and So Reem.
Can I just comment on this, because I contacted the families to come today, and some of them were asking me, are we going to bring food?
Yeah, you see?
And I said, no, you don't. But it's something that it's something that people always think that, when they are here, they would like to share.
Yeah.
And particularly back home, they would definitely not make you leave before you try some of
Yeah, that day of the 3-hour-long interview, Reem told me, Emanuelle, listen, you have to stay. And that was a part of cultural translation that happened at that moment. She was like, she read the situation other times, we've been invited as well, and we didn't stay. But at that time she said, I am given all this context here, or what being said and etc., we should stay to have dinner. And that was paramount. Would I not have a person who understands how not only being Syrian, but being Syrian in the context of, being exiled from your country? I would never know.
Thank you. Right, so I took you through some of my experience as an interpreter to the project. It's been great to help you do this. As Emanuelle said, before the project I was already doing interpretation, not just for the council, for the newly arrived people, whether Syrians or not. So I'd be interpreting for them at, the dentist, the bank, home visits. But I also did interpretation for counselling, where participants used to go on and on, and I have been through this experience when people are going to talk about their trauma, and where you can't just stop them and translate to the counsellor, because they really wanted to finish what they wanted to say. And I think this is what I really want to reflect on today. So when to start? Again, as an interpreter, you are usually invited to speak. So normally Emanuelle will start by asking people questions, and she will look back at me to invite me to translate. But again, that sounds like straightforward. Sometimes there's all kinds of interruptions. Then you might need to rephrase the question. Even in Arabic, translating it, sometimes, people come from different, educational background, and sometimes they need, like more details or examples even to help them understand. Right. And again, for the people who are replying to Emanuelle, I have to again wait at the right time when they either beckon me to speak or they just, sometimes they would stop speaking because they feel too emotional, and at that time I think it's a good break for them to, be quiet, and I can explain to Emanuelle. Right, and yes, you were right, Emanuelle. Like, the thing is, I know I was there as an interpreter, but I really felt I need to do more. For instance, some people were telling stories, as you said, of torture, and actually that was even more than report, because I myself was shocked. So imagine you have been shocked and you're going to translate it